be Downfall versus Crimson in round number 3 here. I'm joined once again. We're not casting this time, but it's going to be on at the analyst desk by my co-caster, Skimmy. Skimmy, these two guys, veteran names here. Downfall, a new team, but having a look at everybody on that, there's a lot of old milkshake in that side.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the off-season has proven to be the roster apocalypse that we get used to every single year coming around. So Downfall picking up that team, looking to see some really big things out of these guys. As you mentioned, some veterans in the scene, some players that have been around for such a long time. Comes down to the cohesion, which is what I want to bring up about Team Crimson here. Now all tagged up, looking very suave and professional with their master and GM portraits glaring and glazing at us. They are definitely the hot favorites in this one, but it's all up to Downfall to show what they can do with that organization luck that comes from that golden happy time period.
So without further ado, ladies and gents, we're going to pass you over to your faithful casters for the first time today, but definitely not for the first time period. You're going to know these guys. It is, of course, Vandy and GL Phoenix as we take you through Downfall and Crimson here on Cursed Hollow.
Thanks very much, Skimmy and Kit Fox. And I mean, GL, it's been a while since we casted together. And what are your predictions on this one going into it? Because as the guys were covering, Downfall plus Crimson, there are a lot of old names in the scene and a lot of history, I guess, between the guys as well. Because at some point or another, they've all been playing with each other at one point. I mean, ANZ's so small, there's just bound to be overlap, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen these names pop up here, there, and pretty much everywhere over the past couple of years. And as we've mentioned, as it was mentioned, both these teams have, they've been around a while, but not necessarily in the same format. So we're looking on the side of Crimson, we have a lot of old school names like KVA, we've got Ulterian who've been around for so many years, but now they're on this team and just looking at that lineup, it's pretty scary to look at. But on the other side, with Downfall, we've got a lot of names that pop up quite a bit in those fourth, third kind of placements. So we've got a lot of experience on both sides, but we'll just have to wait and see which team has kind of brought themselves together just a little bit better.
I mean, as Skimmy said, I think my tip to win would be Crimson for this game, just because they've been together as a unit a lot longer. Yes, there are new faces. KVA, he's brushed off, came out of retirement. He's back here. I mean, Skimmy, you'd be happy about that one because he's a fellow mate. But I'm excited to see how they're going to play with this brushed up roster. And as Skimmy was saying, taking it really seriously. They've got the tags all rolling out. It's very, very professional. Nice to see as well. So very much ready for the HTC League, which I can't stop talking about because I'm very excited. First up to ban, however, was Genji. No surprise there. He's been banned out in the majority of games we've seen on stream today. He's still a very, very powerful hero. And the reason why is because he does a little bit of everything quite well. And most effectively, though, is getting to that back line. He can be such a nuisance, such a threat, and put so much pressure out. And Dahaka, I mean, on Cursed Hollow, that global pressure that he gives, it's just very much invaluable. But Greymane being the first pick, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the Greymane, it's not too out of the realm of possibility. We've seen it in the previous games already. Either he's banned or picked up very early, has a lot of strength. He's just kind of a one-size-fits-all when it comes to drafts. If you put him up high in the draft, you're not giving anything away. You have a strong power pick that can pretty much do it all. As you're talking about with the Genji, kind of does a bit of everything and does it rather well. Whereas on the other side, we've already got the Lucio and the Sonya picked up. So they've already got their support. Sure, he took a little bit of a nerf to his healing numbers, but he's still very strong, does a decent amount with those heals, and also the movement speed cannot be understated, especially on such a large map like Cursed Hollow, where you want to be a little bit more mobile around the map. And the Sonya, she's just really good.
That pressure that Sonya can bring from lane, she's very easy able to dominate it, take charge of it, and become that movable force. Plus, also, you've got someone to reliably take those mercenary camps. And we know with all the changes, minions are now all the more important because of, it's quite a big change, actually. I mean, I've still been getting used to them, but even the siege camps, if you leave them unchecked, they can do so much work. So be very, very mindful of that. Sonya's a perfect candidate to be able to do it. And Greymane, as you said, I really like that pick. It doesn't really give away much on Cursed Hollow, but that Malthael's still up, and ETC. Okay, ETC, that was the pick I was waiting to see which team would pick up first. I felt as though, because a lot of what we've seen is that the ETC and Sonya, they're hotly contested for the same reasons. I mean, they can set up a team fight quite well. Sonya as well, she can put out a lot of pressure, same as ETC as a frontliner. When you have them on the same team, it's just a lot. It's very, very scary to contend with. That Malthael, I like. It's definitely a counter to, in a pick to try and counter that Sonya, and that one comes down to skill, but Malthael should be able to win that lane if he knows how to play it right.
Yeah, that is one of the good matchups, the Malthael into the Sonya, but one thing that we started to see over the past couple of months is when it comes to Malthael, a good counter to it is the Lucio, which is kind of counterintuitive with the way these picks ended up, because when you go in with that Tormented Souls, you have the Lucio hit the sound barrier, and all of a sudden that Tormented Souls is kind of null and void, but it does seem that the Malthael is more likely picked up to deal with that Sonya, as you mentioned. But as we'll go back a little bit further, talking about the siege camps and kind of the jungling role that's kind of developed over the past month, Sonya and Greymane are both heroes that can actually do that very efficiently. Greymane is actually able to just clean up hard camps almost on spawn, so that's one thing that we could potentially see coming out of the Downfall lineup. Just have solid solo laners that can hold on for themselves, and have this Greymane kind of just clean up all these neutral camps and just apply a lot of pressure in time for these shrines to come.
As far as bans go, for the second round, we have Arthas and Stukov being chosen out. I really find that Arthas ban quite smart, because we know the Arthas and Lucio, once you speed him in, it can be so hard to try and unstick yourself from that. And these are two power picks coming out as well. Li Ming and Anub'arak work very, very well on this map. In those tight fights for the tributes, Anub'arak can be deadly with an Impale. And Li Ming as well, to make sure that there's not going to really be a quick and hard fast counter for the Cocoon if he chooses to go down that path. So very, very smart drafting. She also applies a lot of that poke over the walls, and just need to be very mindful of. She's a great hero, almost fulfills the role that Genji does. You give them a reset, give him an inch, they take a mile, right?
Absolutely. You start the ball rolling, and all of a sudden you've got a Li Ming rolling through an entire team. And we've seen over the past couple of months, like since the changes, as you mentioned, we've seen snowballs develop more easily, and what kind of typifies a snowball more succinctly than Li Ming just in her playstyle. If you manage to get that little bit of an inch, as you mentioned, she just takes it for a mile, and that's one thing we'll probably see with these team fights is if Crimson are able to get that first pick, able to start off just right, they'll be able to roll through this Downfall lineup. But the Gul'dan and the Malfurion, good pickups towards the end of the draft.
I like that. It offers them a lot of crowd control as well, in addition to what they're facing. I'm getting a bit tongue-tied today, aren't I? Just going to slow down, take a chill. But Anub'arak and Li Ming, they also offer interrupt for ETC, which means that Sonya is free to go Wrath of the Berserker, because if that was going to be their only interrupt, she might have had to go Leap to make sure that kind of deter or have a reliable way to get out of the mosh pit. So with this last pick now, I'm wondering, they might want another tank to back up Anub'arak, but I don't think they will, because Sonya's already fulfilling that bruiser role. So they might want some sort of range DPS coming out, something like
another range DPS, or even like a secondary support. Even like an Ana would actually not be too bad with this lineup. It would help with the sustainability, and also the Li Ming with the nano boost can do so much work and really just expand on that whole snowballing thing. If you get going in that, you can just roll it through. But they're actually going to go with the Cassie, so it is going to be a second DPS, and it's a little bit of an interesting one, considering the only real auto attack coming out on the side of Downfall that's going to be of threat is probably going to be the Greymane, or to be honest, even the Malfurion, if he does go for that newer Moonfire build. So going for the Cassia, trying to deal with some of those auto attackers, a bit of an interesting pick. I wouldn't really, I didn't really expect to come out, but it's gonna be interesting to see how it works out in this draft.
Actually, I was expecting the Cassia to come out, only because yes, the Ana sounds well and nice on paper, but then you're putting all your eggs in that Li Ming basket, and then I was thinking Lunara would probably get destroyed quite easily. So who could hold her own? So I was thinking the Cassia would be a pick. Yes, the blind is going to get limited use, because like you said, just on Greymane and Malthael, but it's more for the damage that she can offer, as well as I guess the utility and that she can bring. It's just extra damage to bring to the table. And I mean, if she can put a lot of pressure on that backline, as Cassia is able to do, that will also help them in these team fights.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they play it out, because we've got really different styles. I mean, you've got this very upfront burst-centric lineup from Crimson. They want to start off the fight with a bang and then just roll it through from there. But you have this very extended, almost team fight that Downfall is wanting to with this Gul'dan. You're not necessarily going for the highest burst damage coming out of that hero, but you do have some options to have those very good sustained, prolonged team fights But we'll just have to wait and see how it goes, especially once we get into the mid and late part of this game. But here we are on Cursed Hollow. It is, I believe, the winners semi-final here on this ANZ Pretrainer to the Preseason. On the blue, it is going to be Downfall. We have Flaze on the Greymane, Konya on ETC, Superfish on Mount AL, Magic Gnome on Gul'dan, and Shrek is Love is on the Mount Fury.
And aptly rocking the red, we have Team Crimson with Altivian playing Leeming, Azure on Cassia, Jesmez playing Sonya, KVA on Anubarak, and The Shadow on Lucio. Sorry, it's just Shadow now, not even The Shadow. He's dropped it.
He's dropped it for the Crimson.
Nice. I like it.
New year, new me, I guess is the thing we can go with. But yeah, it's very, very fun to see all the very nice and professional tags coming out. But we do have a very interesting three-man push on the top side of the map coming out from Crimson, just allowing the solo lane, the tanks and the bruisers to just deal with their solo lane. Is not necessarily play it too aggressively, just wanting to just soak up that experience and let that top lane push in and get that advantage going.
Already, they're putting so much pressure on that top lane. They want to get the extra experience down. And I mean, there's relatively not much that Flaze can do at the moment as this Greymane. He had to go around a long way as well because he was not expecting this. But the pressure as well down in the bot lane. So they're responding and mirroring. And it's going to be interesting. So in this, we can already see the location of the next tribute. So that's also another big change that's come up. So teams can actually plan. How do they want to play this? Do you want to go make a move for that siege camp? I mean, it'll be very advantageous for the blue team to be doing so because then it can push for them when they then rotate to the tribute.
Yeah, and one thing to notice is that because of this very aggressive push on the top side, it did delay the Greymane from starting up on that siege camp, which we do now see Superfish on the Mount Dale starting up. And it does mean that because it is going to be, it doesn't have that fort there now, it is going to be forced to push against a little bit of further distance, and there's a nice early advantage picked up for Crimson, and now that they've gotten that, they are going to start working their way towards the bottom, towards the location of that first tribute, and it looks like they might even have their fort on the bottom side survive.
Yeah, it looks like they did just not enough damage to be able to burst it down fast enough. So this really does penalize Downfall in doing so because they wanted to mirror it exactly. And yes, they do have the camp, but KVA is there. They capped it a little bit early. As we know now, the tributes all spawn, or the objective will spawn at 3 minutes on certain maps, and this is one of them. So it's not that old timer that teams still might be used to.
Yeah, it does have that delayed start and probably picking up early. Unless they're able to get early some advantages out of it. I mean, if we look on the top side, the siege camp are going to get some work done. There's only so much they can actually do, especially when you have Flaze on the Greymane pushing this in heavily. There's only so much that an Anubarak can do to combat that. So they are still going to be able to get the advantages out of the camp. But as you mentioned, the timing probably could have been used to greater effect around this next around this first tribute. I'm sorry, but yeah, they do actually manage to get that push enough onto that bottom side. As the Crimson lads are they kind of just meandering around the place, just waiting for something to happen.
Crimson, I mean, there was a good rotation coming out there by Konya. They tried to get the kill onto Shadow, but he managed to wall right away. And this one, it's not going to have any contestation yet. They said, we're going to let this one go. And we can actually see Flaze. He seems to be living for now, but I don't think there's nowhere else he can go. Altivian missing his arcane orb. That's got to feel a little bit embarrassing.
But I think
prides himself so much on them.
Yeah, but I think they'll be happy with that kill. They were, as you mentioned, giving up that first tribute, not wanting not necessarily needing to play all that aggressively for that first one, and using that to get an advantage elsewhere, taking that kill, but they are going to be losing out some of their structural damage on the mid lane, but they are in a good position for the next one. So it is a bit of a net even on the grand scheme of things, but it's a nice thing to, one of those mind games to put into your opponents. Like, if you step out a little bit too far, there's the potential that you have that very quick rotation. And when you have the Lucio there, that rotation can come in much quicker. So they do get a nice engage onto Magic Gnome. He's just caught out, body blocked, and deleted by Crimson, and they are going to take that all the way through, and they're going to roll it through into Konya, who tried to help out his teammate, only just get punished instead. And that's a nice couple of kills picked up there for Crimson, and they're going to push this straight into that mid lane.
That tribute is spawning as well, and this means that there should be relatively no contestation coming out on the side of Downfall now. And you can see, with the rework to that Bruiser camp, it was what they used to put a lot of pressure onto this middle fort, as well as pick up those kills. KVA, he was ready to engage. at a moment's notice. And for his efforts, I mean, you need to respect that. There's just so much crowd control that can come out from a new bracket. It can really lock you up. So great to see. These guys as well, Crimson, they've got a level lead now in their advantage, so they're well poised to hit that all-important level 10 first and unlock the heroics.
Or we see an invade coming in, they realize that their camp is up and they just want to move in. They don't get there in time, they just give it up. Tivian, he looked like he wanted to make the big hero play, but fought against it when he saw that there was both the Gul'dan and the Malthael, a little bit too much to deal with for just a single Leeming. So they do give that up, but they are very aware of the respawn timers of those neutral camps, and very aware that Downfall are wanting to be very much on top of those neutral camps.
Bit of a fight breaking out around the bottom boss, but the tribute is in the top side of the lane, but they do not care because instead it's Blaze that gets caught out. Konya, he wasn't able to save his fellow teammate. So now that they're down another player, it's just going to set them back a little bit more. Heroics have been unlocked for Crimson, and let's see what they've taken. We've got the Wave of Force, Ball Lightning, Wrath of the Berserker, Cocoon, and we're waiting to see on this. If that's not a sound bear, I'd be very surprised.
I believe, we're not going to get any reverse Sam shenanigans. I mean, we're seeing how that's gone in the past. It's just not really all that great. But now that they do have the Heroics Crimson, they can play very aggressively. They can pretty much control the map however they want for this next level. They could potentially go towards a boss, because being able to take that without any threat of your opponents wanting to make a play on it, it is a nice position to be in. But very well done from Downfall. They are realizing that the boss is going to be taken on the top side, and using this time where they have that rather significant disadvantage, they are actually going to be trading evenly, so they are going to be pretty decently off at this point, and they should give them more than enough time to get to level 10 by the time the next tribute is going to spawn.
Yep, it's a good call by Downfall, anticipating that boss would be taken and making sure that they don't get 2 bosses for free. The tribute is here now, and this would be in Downfall's interest to get level 10 and try to contest this one if possible, because otherwise they will be cursed, and there's going to be a whole lot more pushing pain that Crimson will want to bring out.
Yeah, they have to be a little bit careful. They don't have level 10 yet. They need just a little bit more. Superfish taking that hard camp on towards the mid lane is going to be able to pop them over to level 10. They do have the mosh pit now on deck, and they could start to really turn these fights around, as they are going to start moving their way in. But already Crimson are set up around this tribute. They're going to start it already. They want you to just start off this curse, but a nice comment as well is that the do manage to dissuade it immediately. A nice mosh pit does lock down 2 members. They're not able to finish anyone off yet, as Shadow is going to be running for his life. He's going to be able to survive, and now the backline of Downfall is going to start falling apart. They do manage to take down the Malfurion, but Tivian taking a little bit of damage. He's almost going to die to the Malthael. He does actually, but in the end it's just going to be a 2 before actually make that just a full team wipe, but only 2 down on the side of Crimson, and they are going to get that curse, and they are just going to push this straight into the base.
Oh, Tivian played that quite well. I mean, he was trying to look for this kill and make sure that his dominance would continue to proc, and it actually bought him enough time that he was soaking enough damage and really chasing out the members of Downfall to try and commit to that kill and finish him off. And it was a quite close fight, as we saw. I mean, the mosh pit did go off, as did the Cocoon. There were a lot of back and forth, but I think what really hurt them was that Malfurion, after the Twilight Dream popped, he was just getting focused down, and there wasn't really any peel or any way he could go to. And no Ice Block coming out of that. He has gone that full Moonfire build as well. So he won't have that Ice Block to fall back on just yet, and he just got completely dismantled very early on. So without the heals, as we can see, and that first kill, it was going to go in Crimson's favor. I mean, you can't give Leeming those resets.
Absolutely, and we do see that for the keep on the top side finally falling down. There's a little bit of extra push pressure coming out because of the curse was enough to finish it off. We do see that the Crimson bottom keep has taken a fair bit of damage thanks to the boss that was taken by Downfall. So that does give a potential way back into the game should Downfall actually get some good fights later on. But with that keep taken on the top side, that is going to be a point of pressure that Crimson can use for the rest of this game. And with this level and talent tier advantage, they are allowed to be the proactive team coming throughout the rest of this mid game.
Absolutely. And I mean, we haven't really talked a lot about the talents. I was just having a quick look at them. Everything's pretty much stock standard. We did mention Malfurion has gone the Moonfire build, bit of that Boomkin coming out. But also, what I like to see is ETC Konya. He's taken that Crowd Surfer, which means that his Power Slide can travel over walls and terrain. Very, very smart on a map like this where there's just a lot of terrain, a lot of walls. He can maybe use a surprise mosh because he has indeed opted for the mosh. So feeling quite confident, even though there's a lot of interrupts on their team, he's confident that he can land at least one good mosh. Because in a situation like this, in the draft, you pick ETC, you're hoping to get the Mosh's best case scenario, but then sometimes you actually get forced to pick the other heroic. It can just be more situational. So very, very interesting. It's a lot of, I guess, trust as well coming out.
Yeah, and you're kind of forcing your opponents to have that crowd control on deck should you start sliding in. So you're just forcing your opponents to have that key in hand, as they do actually get a gank down onto KVA. He does use the cocoon onto the ETC that locks out a lot of that crowd control, and that will allow KVA to get away unscathed. This is just going to allow the rest of Crimson to push forward in these lanes. We have Sonya on the top side with these catapults starting to move in. That's going to be a point of pressure that is going to be really quite obnoxious for Downfall to deal with, especially with this next tribute spawning on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, they have to clear that Bruiser camp as well because they know that left unchecked, it will just shred through their defenses. But that leaves a tribute. They're going to come to that fight a little bit late, which really just allows Crimson to set up. And with that 16 looming, they only have just acquired 13 quite recently, the Downfall guys. So they don't want to fight when 16 is acquired. This is their slight, small window of opportunity.
Ooh, they want to get in there, kind of stepping forward as the Shadow he's a little bit far forward for Lucio. He is going to be safe with those sound barriers, or not sound barriers, the sound waves to just boop away that Konya should he get in. And as Magic Gnome just gets deleted within a second. They're trying to get the turnaround, but they're not able to get the damage to stick. The Tremendous Oars is wailing across so many members, but with that sound barrier going in, they're able to pretty much ignore a lot of it, and then just got to clean up the squishy members of Downfall. They don't even need to pick up that tribute. They're just going to move straight onto that boss, as we do have KVA and Shadow just starting to just push away these last two members of Downfall, but that was just a clean teamfight coming in.
Very, very clean. We can really see the Cocoon doing a lot of work there. FaZe was locked out for so much of that fight. They were so low. Once that Tormented Souls came out, you could just see him itching to use a go for the throw. He did get a kill when he spawned out, but it wasn't enough. It was a little too late. And you can see the composition in the fights, really the way they've structured it on the side of Downfall, it relies so much on the Mosh plus Tormented Souls. But if Lucio isn't in that, the sound barrier, as you already predicted in draft, so good at mitigating that burst coming out from Tormented Souls, enough to keep him alive. So Shadow, he's doing so well to position out of these moshes, anticipating and then coming in when his team needs him. As well as that Accelerando, I mean, there's been so many gank attempts happening, and he's always just been there because he can traverse the map so quickly.
Yeah, and it's really obnoxious to deal with, especially, and now that he's at, they are at level 16, the Rejuven Essentia, talent picked up from Lucio, his Amp Up is going to heal so much more, especially with these reasonably high health pools of the, actually, Anubrak doesn't actually have a very high health pool, but he will benefit from that quite a bit, as will Jesmes on that Sonya. Just that front line will just have so much more healing at their back, and it's really hard for that damage over time to really make a dent when you have so much healing, just ignoring a lot of it.
Yep, this could be pretty much the game end right here now for Downfall. They need to be able to get a fight, but with that boss on their core as well, it's a lot to contend with.
Yeah, the Wrath of the Berserk has been used, but I believe it was used onto the Sonya, but they're trying to get the fight going, but they just go all in. Crimson, they wipe out the ETC and the Greymane right off the bat. And Ice Horrify does get quite a few members, but it's just not nearly enough. As you mentioned, the boss is still doing way too much to their core, and that is just going to be game going over to Crimson.
That was quite an interesting game to watch. I mean, Downfall, I really did like their draft as well, but I felt like too many eggs were in the ETC basket right there. And with that Lucio pick, as well as the Gul'dan pick into a Nubrak, I mean, it's good to split up your damage, make sure that you've got a good split of damage. But, I mean, you could see KVA every time just putting out so much pressure onto Magic Gnome. And as well as the Cocoon, can really negate a lot of what Malthy was trying to bring as well. If he is Tormented Soulsing, I mean, KVA was using it to lock out FaZe in a couple of those fights, but he could also use it to stop the Tormented Souls. Very frustrating when that Malthiel player expecting to do a big play. And Crimson, they just They had a really good game plan. They played this one absolutely perfect. I didn't really see many mistakes coming out from these guys, if any.
Yeah, I mean they have very clean looking team, and for how early on in this season we are, well, we're not even started the season. We're still in preseason technically, but very excited to see how this team goes when we get into the full season proper, because we've seen a lot of these players, and they were consistently in like the 3-4 position throughout last year, and now that they've got this really solid, I feel as though they have probably one of the stronger lineups in the region. We'll have to see if they're able to contend for one of those top spots.
Absolutely. But we do have our desk on standby. So, Skimmy and Kippots, going to toss over to you. What did you guys think of the game?
I really like the way Crimson played that game. How about it, Skimmy, your boy, KVA, hashtag the return.
Yeah,
he played a fantastic Anubarak every single time. You saw, I think it was Superfish on the Malthael coming in with the Tormented Souls on the engage. KVA was on the lockdown straight away with that Cocoon. When the Cocoon was down, ETC went in for the Mosh Pit, bang, the Impale was there, and it just goes to show you how it doesn't matter how long you can stay out of the game for. Once you come back and you get that fire again, you do so well.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's one of the godfathers of ANZ, right? You know, I'm looking at him right now, just sitting there, cool and calm, as collected as can be, right? He's got that serum tag on. He feels like a boss. He definitely played like one in that game. And I think to really resonate what Vandy was saying as well, it felt a little bit too ETC-centric. If you actually look at the ultimates they had, it was very wombo combo-ish, right? You got the classic between ETC, Mosh Pit, and the Tormented Souls. Then it had the Horrify for insurance and the Twilight Dream for the absolute kill security. I think the biggest thing for me is the Sand Barrier just did so much to negate that Shadow, was just absolutely popping off in my opinion. And it felt to me a little bit like FaZe was always on the hunt to try and flank a little bit too much, where their comp, like we say, was so centrically focused around ETC that maybe if you just stayed out as that 5-man unit, things could have gone a little bit differently, especially that last fight, which was clean as can be. He was cocooned as KVA was just scouting out that brush. He comes in last minute, tries to go for the throat. Not going to happen. Dominance procs for Altibian. And, well, it was just a case of boss, push, and win.
It was a fantastic game. I mean, Downfall just really struggled to get themselves on the board there. Once they sort of slipped at the first hurdle, they sort of kneecapped themselves and just struggled from there. And Crimson just showing their skill and their veterancy in the choices to go for the, like you saw them go for the boss instead of the tribute. Decided to push the lane instead of, again, going for the camps. The way that they did that was fantastic. Their timing as well. Just as the tributes were spawning, they were getting camps. Just when the other team was clearing another lane, they were already pushing another one. And I dare I say it, I'm going to say they're one of the contenders, judging from what we've seen today coming into the 2018 HGC season.
100%, man. I mean, this is a team that have been putting in a lot of effort. Obviously, they were a big standout for the 2017 circuit when they went to LAN. Yes, they did finish fourth, but a lot of potential, a few changes during the off-season. And especially with the experience of KVA as well, that really does add to the roster, add to the mix of what this team can achieve. So definitely not a team to dismiss off. We've seen what Darksider can do so far today. I have to wait and see Phenomia on another day. But in terms of Crimson, definitely they are a contender going into the circuit. So I think that